Welcome to our video exploring the fascinating world of Pokemon and their place on the Tree of Life. Today, we take a closer look at Ampharos and its connection to Tauros. Ready? Let's dive in! The Mouflon, Ovis gmelini group, is a collective term for several species of wild sheep. In the strict sense, it refers to a single subspecies, the European Mouflon. The word Mouflon is a loan word whose grammatical gender is listed in dictionaries mostly as masculine, though it is sometimes given as neuter. The Romance source words, such as the French mouflon, Italian mouflon, and Sardinian Corsican mouvron and moufron, are all masculine. Mouflons have a head and body length of about 130 centimeters, 51 in, and a shoulder height of around 90 centimeters, 35 in. Rams, male mouflons, typically weigh about 50 kilograms, 110 pounds, while ewes, females, weigh around 35 kilograms, 77 pounds. The mouflon's natural habitat consists of mountainous landscapes. Females form herds of up to 100 animals with one or sometimes two lambs, while the rams join the herds only during the breeding season. In regions where mouflons have been introduced, they are known to spend most of their time in forests. Nearby agricultural land is visited only at certain times of the day and year. Both in their native range and in areas where they have been introduced, mouflons undertake seasonal vertical migrations. Mouflons are highly territorial animals. Maternal family groups often occupy the same traditional territories for generations. Their detailed knowledge of their habitat is a key part of their predator avoidance strategy. When wolves, one of the mouflon's primary predators, approach, mothers attempt to reach steep, rocky terrain with their lambs, where wolves usually cannot follow. In relatively flat areas where mouflons have been introduced by humans, such as the Dutch Veluwe and other regions, they are much more vulnerable to wolves. Lambs are also threatened by eagles, and mothers seek areas with dense cover whenever birds of prey appear overhead. Mouflons rarely colonize new territories. Within their home range, mouflons navigate using prominent landscape features. They usually move in single file, creating well-defined trails throughout their territory. A characteristic behavior is climbing elevated ground to gain a better view of their surroundings. Today, the mouflon is found in the Caucasus, Anatolia, northern Iraq, and northwestern Iran. Historically, its range extended across Crimea, the Balkans, and as far as the Carpathian Mountains. However, it disappeared from these regions during the Bronze Age, around 3,000 years ago, or even earlier. Mouflons are also found on Elba, Cyprus, Corsica, and Sardinia, although it remains debated whether these populations represent true wild sheep or descendants of very ancient domestic sheep. In many parts of Europe, mouflons have been introduced as game animals. For example, approximately 1,000 individuals are believed to live in northern Burgenland, Austria, descending from animals released during the 1960s. In southwestern Berlin, mouflons have lived for nearly a century. With some luck, visitors can observe a group of around 30 animals in the Duppel forest near Königsweg, while another group of about 20 animals inhabits the western part of the forest near Schäferberg. The American bison, Bos bison, sometimes also referred to as bison, often simply called the buffalo, is a species of wild cattle native to North America and the largest land mammal on the continent. Whether the European bison, Wisent, belongs to its own genus, bison, remains a subject of scientific debate. Today, however, both the American bison and the European bison are often classified within the genus Bos, which includes the true cattle. The native habitat of the plains bison, B. bison, is the open grasslands of the North American prairies, while the wood bison, B. bison athabasca, inhabits the northern forest regions. Their diet consists almost entirely of grasses and sedges, which these ruminants consume while grazing slowly. Female bison and their calves live in herds that typically consist of around 50 animals. Adult bulls either live alone or in small bachelor groups. During the breeding season, between July and August, the bulls join the female herds and remain close to individual cows, a behavior known as tending, before mating occurs. Calves are born in April and May and are nursed by their mothers until they are 4 to 6 months old. Before the arrival of European settlers in North America, the American bison population is estimated to have numbered around 30 million animals. However, intensive hunting drove the species to the brink of extinction by the end of the 19th century. By 1885, the total population had fallen to only about 1,000 individuals. The establishment of Yellowstone National Park in 1872 and Wood Buffalo National Park in 1922 played a crucial role in saving the species in North America, and the population has been recovering slowly ever since. In May 2016, President Barack Obama signed the National Bison Legacy Act, officially designating the American bison as the national mammal of the United States, alongside the bald eagle. In 2022, the total number of wild American bison in the United States exceeded 190,000 individuals. Because the species still depends heavily on conservation measures, and only a small number of sufficiently large wild populations remain, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, currently classifies it as near threatened. The American bison is the largest living land mammal in the Americas. Compared with other cattle species, it has a remarkable season. The lighter summer coat is replaced by a darker, almost black winter coat. As bison age, the hair on the shoulder hump and shoulders often begins to lighten, a trait that is especially pronounced in older bulls. In early spring, the transition to the summer coat begins, although clumps of the old winter coat, particularly on the shoulders, may remain attached until midsummer. Newborn calves are initially covered in a reddish-orange coat. After approximately 3 months, they shed this first coat and gradually become darker. Are typically individuals that were born late in the season. American bison exhibit pronounced sexual dimorphism. Sexually mature bulls are about 1.6 times heavier than adult cows. Adult males typically weigh between 144 and 907 kilograms, 1,200 to 2,000 pounds, while females weigh between 318 and 545 kilograms, 700 to 1,200 pounds. Even when they have the same body circumference, males are approximately 9% heavier than females. Adult bulls have a shoulder height of about 1.67 to 1.86 meters, 5.5 to 6.1 feet, whereas females stand between 1.52 and 1.57 meters, 5.0 to 5.2 feet. Both sexes possess permanent horns. The shape of the head, and especially the horns, changes in a characteristic way throughout the animal's development and differs between males and females. As a result, the horn shape can often be used to determine both the age and sex of an individual. Compared with females, males have thicker horns that are more evenly curved and often show signs of wear or chipping near their bases. The heads of bulls also appear broader and more massive than those of cows. Calves weigh between 14 and 32 kilograms, 31 to 71 pounds at birth. By 1 year of age, young bison of both sexes typically weigh between 225 and 315 kilograms, 496 to 694 pounds. The wood bison, Bison athabasca, and the plains bison, Bison are very similar in overall appearance. According to Hal Reynolds, Cormac Gates, and Randall Glauholt, 2003, the following characteristics distinguish the two subspecies. 1. The hair on the head, around the horns, on the belly, and in the throat beard is noticeably shorter and less dense in the wood bison than in the plains bison. 2. Plains bison have a skirt-like fringe of long hair on the upper part of the forelegs, whereas this feature is weakly developed or absent in wood bison. 3. The hair on the shoulders and neck is lighter in color in the plains bison than in the wood bison. 4. The tail of the wood bison is generally longer and more heavily haired than that of the plains bison. 5. The tuft of hair surrounding the preputial opening is usually shorter and thinner in the wood bison than in the plains bison. In the wood bison, the highest point of the shoulder hump is located farther forward than in the plains bison. It lies in front of the forelegs, whereas in the plains bison, the highest point is positioned directly above the forelegs. Some phenotypic differences between the plains bison and the wood bison show no correlation with geographic location or environmental conditions. This suggests that these characteristics are genetically determined rather than being the result of environmental influences. Current research indicates that bison entered North America from Siberia in 2 migration waves during the Middle and Late Pleistocene, crossing the Bering Land Bridge, known as Beringia. Around 10,000 years ago, Bison occidentalis appeared. Approximately 5,000 years ago, this ancestral form gave rise to the two modern subspecies, bison 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 and bison bison athabasca. The wood bison evolved as a non-migratory subspecies, adapting to the open woodlands and meadows of the northwestern portion of the species' vast historical range, which corresponds largely to present-day Canada. In contrast, the migratory plains bison evolved in response to the extensive, treeless grasslands that covered central and southern North America. The disappearance of bison from the northernmost part of their historical range, including wood bison populations in Alaska and northwestern Canada during the Middle to Late Holocene, is now believed to have resulted from a combination of habitat changes and human hunting. Before European settlement, the plains bison was most abundant in the North American prairies, but also occurred around the Great Lakes and as far east as the Atlantic coast, ranging from New England to Florida. Its distribution also extended north into western Saskatchewan, central Alberta, and southwestern Manitoba, and south to the Gulf of Mexico and into Mexico. In the west, plains bison ranged as far as eastern Oregon and northern California. Historical records from the late 18th and early 19th centuries document wood bison populations in southern Yukon, the western Northwest Territories, Alberta, and British Columbia. By that time, however, bison had probably already disappeared from Alaska and western Yukon. Originally, the combined range of the two subspecies stretched from Mexico to Great Slave Lake and from present-day Washington state eastward across the Rocky Mountains. Intensive hunting, particularly during the second half of the 19th century, led to the near-total extermination of bison throughout this vast range. By the end of the 19th century, only a few tiny remnant populations remained. Today, the American bison is most commonly associated with the open prairies of North America. However, before being driven to near extinction during the 20th century, the species also inhabited extensive forested regions. Shortly after the year 2000, wild bison survived only in a number of isolated populations in the United States and Canada. These herds were initially preserved through the efforts of private conservationists and were later supported by government-led conservation programs. Approximately 87% of the 62 free-ranging plains bison herds occur within their historical range. 8 herds, located in California, northern British Columbia, and Alaska, have been established outside the species' original distribution. Of the 11 free-ranging wood bison herds, 9 are currently found within their historical range. Bison primarily express aggressive behavior through their body posture. In only a minority of cases do they use vocalizations such as coughing or snorting in addition to the threat displays communicated through body language. Observations indicate highly developed play behavior in American bison, although objectively identifying play behavior in wild conditions is often extremely difficult and can be influenced by subjective interpretations and anthropomorphic perspectives. Activities considered play behavior are those that a human observer may interpret as enjoyable for the animal and not directly purposeful, that is, performed for the activity itself rather than for achieving the normal outcome associated with that behavior. For example, fights between bison have been observed that appeared not to involve emotional competition over a specific resource and were not connected to the sexual motivation associated with breeding behavior. Instead, the fighting itself appeared to serve as the purpose of the activity. Similarly, running behavior has been observed that seemed to occur without the specific motivation of escaping a predator or reaching a particular destination. Many observations show that bison calves up to 2 years of age are exceptionally playful and engage in play more frequently than older animals. Play behavior is especially common among 1-year-old bison and remains frequent in 2-year-olds. As calves gradually become more independent from their mothers, they form small groups with individuals of similar age and spend much of their time running around, chasing each other, and engaging in mock fights. These activities become less frequent as the animals grow older, with the decline occurring earlier in females than in males. Among bison older than 1 year, males display more play behavior than females, with males most commonly engaging in play fighting. Even older and fully mature bison occasionally display play behavior, particularly in the form of playful fighting with other individuals. Overall, play behavior in American bison occurs most often as fighting and movement-based games. In addition, playful mounting behavior can also occur. Closely associated with play behavior and often serving as a trigger for it is the particularly strong tendency of American bison to investigate unfamiliar things. Bison are highly curious animals. Young animals especially, but also adults, carefully examine new or unfamiliar objects. Herd members, including older calves, also investigate newborn calves. During exploration, American bison approach the object of interest with their tail held stiffly and horizontally extended or raised vertically. In this species, this posture is a distinctive sign of excitement and can also occur in other situations. When threatened, American bison, like other wild cattle species, turn their heads toward the source of danger, tighten their group formation, and place young animals protectively in the center of the herd. Direct and aggressive attacks against predators, such as wolves, are carried out only by bulls. Like the European bison, American bison generally avoid physical contact with humans. They tolerate human presence only to a similar extent to which they respond with defensive aggression. The American bison was first scientifically described by Carl Linnaeus in the 10th edition of his work Systema Naturae, published in 1758. Linnaeus classified the American bison together with domestic cattle in the genus Bos. Due to its distinctive morphological characteristics, later classifications placed it differently. C. Hamilton Smith established a separate subgenus, bison, in 1827 for the American bison and its European counterpart, the European bison, Wisent, Bos bonaesus. In 1849, Charles Knight elevated the subgenus created by Smith to the rank of a separate genus. The American bison was first scientifically described by Carl Linnaeus in the 10th edition of his work Systema Naturae, published in 1758. Linnaeus classified the American bison together with domestic cattle within the genus Bos, the true cattle. Due to its distinctive morphological characteristics, C. Hamilton Smith created the separate subgenus bison in 1827 for the American bison and the European bison, Bos bonaesus. In 1849, Charles Knight elevated Smith's subgenus to the status of a separate genus. The widely used classification into the two subspecies, the plains bison, B. bison bison, and the wood bison, B. bison athabasca, is also the subject of scientific debate. Based on differences in skeletal structure and external characteristics, such as body size and coat features, Samuel Rhodes established the wood bison subspecies in 1897. This division into two subspecies was criticized as invalid by Valerius Geist in a 1991 publication. Instead, Geist considered them to represent ecological forms, ecotypes. He argued that the morphological differences identified by Rhodes were insufficient to justify recognizing a separate subspecies, B. bison athabascae. However, most taxonomists recognize the northern forest form, the wood bison, as a valid taxon, B. bison athabascae, and therefore as a distinct subspecies, separate from both the plains bison, B. bison bison, and the European bison, or wisent, Bos bonaesus. Despite Geist's 1991 suggestion that variation in body size and coat characteristics among American bison may be largely influenced by environmental conditions and diet, the prevailing view regarding differences between plains bison and wood bison has remained that the phenotypic variation observed between the remaining populations is primarily based on genetic variation. More recent genetic studies have sometimes produced conflicting results. In 1999, Gregory Wilson and Curtis Strobeck from the University of Alberta analyzed DNA from animals belonging to 11 different wild bison populations and concluded that the differences between wood bison and plains bison were greater than the differences found among individuals within each subspecies. In contrast, a 2013 study by a research group led by Matthew Cronin from the University of Alaska Fairbanks found that among the genetic markers examined, the genetic diversity between domestic cattle, Bos taurus, and zebu, Bos indicus, was significantly greater than the genetic diversity between plains bison and wood bison. The introduction of plains bison near Wood Buffalo National Park between 1925 and 1928, and the resulting hybridization between wood bison and plains bison further complicates the distinction between the two subspecies. However, after the introduction of plains bison into Wood Buffalo National Park during 1925 to 1928, complete genetic mixing of the two forms did not occur. The hybridization of wood bison with plains bison, combined with human-caused changes to the original distribution ranges of both subspecies, including the reduction of their population areas, relocation, and interbreeding, makes it likely that the taxonomy of existing wood bison populations will remain complex. The question of whether plains bison and wood bison represent two valid subspecies of the American bison remains unresolved. At least 3 possibilities are currently considered. The characteristics of plains bison and wood bison are sufficiently distinct to justify recognizing 2 separate subspecies. The characteristics of plains bison and wood bison were distinct enough in the past to justify 2 subspecies, but this distinction has since been reduced or lost. For example, through hybridization in the area of Wood Buffalo National Park. The characteristics of plains bison and wood bison were never distinct enough to justify recognizing 2 subspecies, at least not on a genetic level. A third subspecies, Bison pennsylvanicus, described in 1915, is no longer considered a valid taxon. Instead, it is regarded as a younger synonym of the plains bison, Bison. It was described as a form that inhabited eastern forests and clearings in limited numbers, with a supposed range extending across large parts of the eastern United States, including all of Ohio and Kentucky, and from western Pennsylvania southward through the Appalachian Mountains to northern Georgia. This form was hunted to extinction during the first half of the 19th century. The presence of small numbers of bison in isolated clearings within forest regions east of the prairies and west of the Appalachians during the 17th and 18th centuries may have been a consequence of the dramatic decline of indigenous populations in these areas after their first exposure to European diseases. Therefore, these animals were probably not a separate eastern subspecies, but rather plains bison that had expanded eastward from the open plains. The origin of the American bison is not yet fully understood. A major difficulty in reconstructing the evolutionary history of the species is that the various fossil forms of bison-like cattle can usually only be distinguished by differences in the skull, especially the arrangement and shape of the horns, regardless of possible differences in body size. Bison-like cattle first reached North America during the Middle Pleistocene, migrating from Eurasia across the Bering Land Bridge. In Eurasia, the genus Bos had already expanded during the transition from the early to the Middle Pleistocene, with possible ancestral forms including Leptobos or Pelorovis. After arriving in North America, Bos spread relatively quickly and competed with early horses and mammoths in the open steppe environments. The migration across the Bering Strait was not a single event. Genetic evidence indicates at least 2 separate migration waves. The first approximately 195,000 to 135,000 years ago, corresponding to the penultimate glacial period, and the second approximately 41,000 to 25,000 years ago, corresponding to the last glacial period. Generally, 2 major groups of bison-like cattle can be distinguished in North America. In the more southern regions, south of approximately the 60th parallel north, Bos latifrons was present. This was a gigantic form that, with an estimated body weight of around 2 tons, greatly exceeded the size of modern bison. Bos latifrons exceeded the modern American bison in weight by approximately twice as much, and its horns could span up to 2 meters, 6.6 feet, from tip to tip. Bos latifrons is documented from numerous fossil sites, including Snowmass in the U.S., state of Colorado, and American Falls in Idaho. The far north, in contrast, was inhabited by the steppe bison, Bos priscus, which was also very large but had differently structured horns. Important fossil sites include the Old Crow Basin in the Canadian territory of Yukon. The exceptionally well-preserved ice mummy known as Blue Babe also originates from Alaska. It is partly assumed that during the course of the last glacial period, Bos latifrons gradually evolved into Bos antiquus through a successive reduction in body size. Bos antiquus is known, among other places, from the asphalt pits of Rancho La Brea in California, In contrast, in the north, the steppe bison developed further into Bison occidentalis. The modern American bison first appears in the fossil record after the last glacial period, during the Holocene. The development of the modern form may have been influenced by the fragmentation of open landscapes following the retreat of glaciers and the expansion of forested habitats. Similar to the evolutionary history of the ancestors of the European bison, these changes likely caused bison populations to become increasingly divided into separate groups. As a result, body size was reduced further, and the orientation and structure of the horns changed. These changes have sometimes also been explained by increased hunting pressure from paleo-indigenous peoples. In the southern regions of North America, the oldest remains of the American bison are between 8,000 and 6,500 years old. This period coincides with the expansion of short grass vegetation dominated by C4 plants. In the more northern regions of North America, the American bison appeared approximately 1,500 years later. That's it for now. In the next episode, we'll take a closer look at Bellossum and its surprising connection to Vileplume. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave a like, and tune in next time as we continue exploring the Tree of Life, Pokemon Edition.